All right, we got in the first panel spot there, we have Jade. Who are you? What content do you create? And what is your tabletop RPG experience?
So, my name's Jade. Obviously, thank you, Max, for having me on. I actually used to run a YouTube channel or YouTube series called Gatekeepers. You can still find all the videos online. It's what GMI used to be, or at least what GMI became after I stopped. Um, I don't do a lot of content creation, at least not publicly. I do a lot of content creation for my own table. I mostly stay within the realm of index card RPG these days, but I've got about 25 years of experience of both playing and mastering the game or mastering the hobby. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, and let's talk about this topic. Um, so I think
Well,
one of the
let
things.
me ask the
Oh,
question here so that
okay.
the audience out there knows what's going on. Unless you're going down a different route.
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, just so the folks out there know. So the first question is, when you evaluate a group, how do you recognize different engagement styles, tactical, narrative, discovery-driven, whatever, and ensure that each style has a space during the session?
So now, again, this is from 25 years of experience doing this. So I think I'm probably the least experienced of this panel at this moment. But one of the things I've noticed is that as a game master, I sometimes slip into equating engagement as visibility. And this is when players who are the loudest, most vibrant at the table are the ones who I know are engaged, whereas the ones who remain silent or aren't actively watching what's going on seem to be less engaged. And sometimes that's just not true. So while I'm game mastering, I'm obviously I'm splitting my focus two ways. I'm obviously paying attention to the player who's got the spotlight, who's center stage, being very active in the scene. But I'm also trying to pay attention to my other players. And this is actually harder online than it is at a physical table. But I'm trying to pay attention to my other players at the table, going, what are they doing? Are they silent? Are they taking notes? Are they actively watching what's happening? Are they seemingly checked out? And when I get these players who are silent and whatnot, I'm like, okay, once this player has wrapped up their scene or their spotlight, I'm going to move the camera to them, and I'm going to see if were they paying attention, were they taking notes, what are they doing? But I'm going to be moving that spotlight randomly around the table in most cases, but generally in turn order. So, and when I say in turn order, I mean from like my left all the way around the table in turn order. And that keeps players on their toes when they know the person next to them starts being active in the spotlight. They're like, oh, I'm going to be getting my turn next. So recognizing the different types of players, that one has taken me a long time to actually truly recognize. Like, I know if someone is actively watching what's happening, they're probably tactically minded or narratively minded, depending on what's happening in the scene. If the scene's a battle scene, the person is watching where everyone's moving their pieces and watching like what I am doing with the enemy forces. That person, obviously they're tactically minded. They're looking to see, okay, he moved there. How can I get advantage on that person? That that friend over there or that ally has moved into that position. Man, they are prime for flanking damage. And then you've got your tactically minded character or players who they're paying attention to what is happening away from the battles, away from everything else. They're looking for that emotional engagement at the table, or even maybe not necessarily emotional, but they're looking for something more than just rolling dice and throwing numbers at a page until it's gone. And to engage with them, I typically have NPCs that they can go engage with, and repeated NPCs that they get to know over time, NPCs that build the world, make the world feel alive. And then I purposely imperil those NPCs because nothing gets a player more motivated to do anything than imperiling one of their favorite NPCs. They will move mountains to protect their NPCs.
Okay, is that everything you got?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, 2 things before these guys jump in.
Sure.
Whoever's clicking, please stop. Like somebody's like, I don't know, like playing with a pen or something. I don't know. Yeah, your microphone, for whatever reason, your microphone picks up everything,
Yeah.
dude. We have to get you a noise gate. But
I got to start wearing mittens for these things.
all right. Anyway, after based on everything he said there, go ahead, guys. Either challenge him, give your own answer, whatever it is you want.
I don't think I would challenge anything on that. It's largely a question of like, especially with new players in a group, you just gotta kind of stay out of their way, and they'll kind of like let you know what's of interest to them. Like, for instance, like you got a guy who's like always talking to like NPCs trying to get information, and I'll just like, okay, so I'll make sure I have some like people ready on the next session, or if I can like throw something in here, okay, he's into that. Somebody really likes getting to like the tactical planning, I'll like add some more details for them to play with. I think you got to kind of play that by ear, because it also can change even within a given player from session to session, depending on the situation.
Yeah.
But I think it's mainly about getting out of their way.
I agree with that. I would say basically what I advocate for all the time is you need to vet your players before they even sit at the table. So if I'm picking all my own players, they're engaged with the game, so I don't really have to worry about it. But let's say that I'm trying to start like a local game group, or I have family over and I want to play this game or something. So what I would do is, step one, to figure out what type of player they are, I would ask them, especially if they've role played before. I don't know how to do this with a new player, like a brand new player. I just introduce them to my way. That's probably what I do. But for a brand new player, I'd say, what is your favorite thing or your favorite memory of a role-playing game? And so then they're going to, based on their answer, that's going to tell me what their goal is as a player. And I think that the goal that they have as a player is going to define what type of engagement style they prefer. So I have, I think that basically a role-playing, a TTRPG is a better experience. Like the basic TTRPG is okay. It's a good time. Like boring D&D it's fine, I guess. But typically people want to get a little bit more out of that experience, and that little bit more is the goal. Like that's their goal.
It's fine if you want to play baby's first role-playing game.
It's like, fine. Well, I'm not saying D&D in particular. I'm just saying, like, we've all probably experienced a boring role-playing game in our life.
Oh, never.
Maybe, I don't know. But that thing that people are chasing, that is their engagement style, right? So I kind of split it up into these 3, what I call load-bearing beams of TTRPG. I don't know. I'm working a shop for the name. Max said I should call it 3 columns of role-playing. I don't know. We'll think about it. Maybe there's a synonym I could use. But basically, when people play TTRPGs, like they have these one of 3 goals. One of them, in my opinion, is like an immersive experience. They want to experience a new world that they've never been in. Another one would be like a tactical kind of strategic game that they want to play. And so like they're really enjoying the combat, they enjoy the builds and all that stuff. And the third one is just having a social event. So they show up to a role-playing game because they're interested in having a social event. Usually people have some kind of mix of those things. And but I think a better game, this is my opinion, it may not be true, but the better game focuses on one of those 3. Like you're going to have a better strategic board game if everyone's interested. You're going to have a more immersive experience if everyone wants that. And you're going to have a better social event if everyone wants that. So, but if you have a mixed bag of people and you figure out what they want, then you kind of understand how to tailor your game to point towards that type of game. I want these 2 people want an immersive experience. This person wants a tactical role-playing game. So that's what we're going to try to focus our game to be in that realm. And I would say, and like honestly, like most of the nostalgic memories that we chase, in my opinion, of children playing these role-playing games. I think it's a blend of all three of those things. You wanted to hang out with your friends, you wanted to outsmart them with tactics, and you wanted to go explore these fantastical worlds. You wanted to do all three of those things, and you achieved all three of those things as a child. So maybe a blend of all three is the best. I don't know, but that's how I would do it. I determine what their goal is, and then I try to cater my game to that. But I highly recommend, and that's only in like you got a gun to your head, you got to play with these players. I would recommend get some players that are going to engage with the way that the GM wants to engage, and then that's the game you're going to get to play.
Okay.
I mean, as far as you are right, curate your table to the best of your ability, and engage with players that engage the way that you engaged with the game. That's a very good point. I've also gamed or game mastered rather for randos at conventions or at game shops for free RPG day, and you get such a mix of player types there. I remember this experience very well. I had, again, it was ICRPG. I had a player from 3.5 who wanted to gamify everything. They wanted to like pinpoint and min-max every little detail. They were even trying to play other people's turns. And so I knew that player was very much a power gamer, very much a, have to run the table, have to win the game scenario. But here's the thing I didn't tell him. There was no surviving the scenario. It was going to end in a TPK regardless. Like, that's just how it went. That was the setup of the story. They started on a world that was ending. The world was quite literally ending. They had to get a MacGuffin off the planet. It was a sci-fi game. There was no chance for their group to survive. By the end of it, that player, after realizing, there was no winning the game, he's like, oh, so all we have to do is get that data off planet. Yes. He strapped a rocket he found to the mech suit of one of the other players and sent them into space because they were the ones holding the data. So he willingly sacrificed his character and everything else to get the data off the planet and also to get one of the other players off planet. Which I thought, no one had ever tried that yet. No one had, because I'd run the scenario multiple times that day. No one had tried to get another player off the planet. They just tried to beat everything to death. So, but engaging at his level, like giving him things to actually engage with and beat and smash down and be the min-maxer until he realized there's no way out of this.
Yeah.
Oh no, what do we do?
That's a big boon, a big skill you got to develop as a GM. You got to be adaptable to what your players want. Don't come in with a static story and insist that their engagement method doesn't matter. Come in and try to do the thing that they want to do. That's my opinion.
If you go in with the attitude of this is how it has to go, you're going to frustrate yourself and everyone else involved. And this is another really big argument for some people hate them, but I'm a big fan of the session 0, where you just kind of like lay everything out beforehand. Like, this is what we're doing. Is everybody cool with this? And one of the things, if I don't have a particular idea in mind, as we're putting the group together, I'll like, let's have a theme for this, and I'll throw out like 6 or 7 ideas, like of the general layout of the campaign. Like we had when one of the players came up with it, turned out to be a short but really awesome campaign. They decided they were going to be a traveling carnival of thieves, and they had like the strong man, and they had like the acrobats who were all like burglars and stuff. And we ran with that. So just deciding beforehand what the general milieu of the campaign is going to be, and get everybody's input beforehand, can be really, really helpful to avoiding problems later on in the campaign itself.
Also a great time to do what is your favorite memory of role-playing game. Like, that's the time to learn the engagement style, and you can cater your GM nonsense to that.
I will say, when I run my own private tables, I do curate, and I do look for story gamers or gamers who are immersed or want to be immersed in the world and immersed in what's going on around them, as well as them wanting to world build themselves. And I give them the space to do that. I stay out of their way. Like if they want to make a city, I let them make a city. If they want to, make an entire, civilization from scratch, cool, let's do that. Sure. I try to stay out of their way in that aspect. Let them world build in my world as much as they want. To me, it's a bit of a sandbox. I
That
used to be
horrified
very
me a
much
little bit
a
when I heard that. I was like, ah.
well. I mean,
Don't touch my
and
world.
if that's well, I mean,
It's
there are
just
things they can
different.
do in the world that I'm gonna be okay with. Like they can, chop down trees, they can clear whole fields, they can salt and burn whatever they want. The world itself is not going to care, and it's not going to change that drastically if they do that. The world's still going to be there long after they're dust,
Oh, okay.
or the
I see.
characters are dust.
I definitely think it's better to make your world care. So if they do something drastic, make the world react to it, and it's so good. And this is more like a later question, but if your players need to be influencing stuff that's happening around them,
Mhm.
it should
And I
be a
mean, I'm not
reaction.
saying the world in general doesn't care, but the world will still keep spinning regardless of what they do. But the reactions of the NPCs and the people or the individuals they make contact with, they will care what the PCs do. Very much so.
So, quick question for you guys. Let's look at this from a little bit different angle, real quickly here. What are some signals that a player's preferred engagement style or character motivation, if you're on the more story gamey side, is not being met, and how quickly or do you adapt the table at all as a whole? And then let's start with Jade, since it's still his question.
So generally, when this happens, when I move the spotlight to the player and I say, "Hey, what are you doing?" They're like, they give long pauses, like, I don't know, and they seem to like lost track of things. I know at that point they are disengaged from what's happening. So to re-engage them, I try to play to their strengths. I try to play to what they like about the game. Why are they here? If they're a combat player, I'm like, okay, I know that this person, RP's been dragging on a little bit. Let's turn the tension up a notch. Get somebody out there wielding, whatever kind of weapon off of table, starting an argument, starting a fist fight, bar brawl, what have you. That's going to re-engage the combat player immediately. And they're like, oh yeah, let's, it's a bar brawl. Let's do this. Now the other players at the table who are just seeing the nonsense happen, they're going to be disengaged from that because they went from conversation to bar brawl for what have you reason, and they're going to be like, what's going on? So that's going to cause them to disengage, unfortunately. So really it's navigating, like finding out what your players like and dislike, what they will engage with easily, quickly, and kind of turning knobs and dials of, are we going in this direction right now? Okay. How do I shift or turn the dial up over here so this player re-engages and takes deep interest in what's going on? And that can be difficult to do. It really can. I know I've struggled with it many times over the years. And I think it's based on what kind of game are you running. I think that's the root of it. There is, what game are you running? Are you running a knockdown, drag out, slog of a fight kind of game, a dungeon crawl? Are you running a vast world with open consequences to whatever the players want to do? Do your players want to be the thespian actors, the ones who go and interact with the NPCs and try to avoid every single fight along the way? It's, what world are you running is the biggest question that you as the game master have to answer, and then you have to find the players for the world you want to run.
Yeah, that's huge. Having the right people play together, and a lot of times I've had. Especially back in the day when I was doing all like in-person games, sometimes you had people who were great players, but were vinegar and water with each other. And so you have to curate the group. You have to have the right people playing together. Some people's styles don't mesh, which is why, in town there'd be like 5 or 6 games and people kind of floated around until they found the one they were most comfortable in. It's a lot easier now with online games because you can just find one. So that's one bonus I think of being heavily online now.
It's almost too easy with online games because I hear a lot of horror stories now of people, one of my players just stopped showing up. There's no like accountability, so to speak. But
oh yeah, very throwaway.
well, let's. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say, usually loud sighing is a cue. Like, yeah, this guy's not having a good time. That's right. Nah,
phone time, people pecking away at their keyboards. It's also a sign.
Engaging with chat. Stop engaging with chat on my game.
Yeah.
Thought you were yelling at me. I was going, hey, hold on.
I don't know.
I don't have a problem with chat at the table, like open chats at the table. However, I do prefer it if it's between players. Like if because I'm running mostly online games at this point, I'm watching them engage in the chat room for the game, and they're actually being able to text and chat with one another. And, as long as they're engaging that way with the other players, I'm cool with that. Like that's A-okay in my book, especially if it's about the game.
I was talking about like a streamed game, but I hear you.
Oh, well, yeah.
I don't think I would want that either, actually. I don't want them talking to each other.
I'm joining Crispy's game right now, and I'm going to be reading all the chat. Paddle me, baby, paddle me.
I had to paddle Crispy once or twice.
One last. I think we got time for one more here. Just again, the purpose of these follow-ups isn't for anything else, but just to expand the conversation a little bit more. But Jade, how do you prevent one dominant engagement style from shaping the campaign or taking over the campaign, so to speak? And I'll use an example from my past. As most of you know, I'm heavy on the role play side. I'm not quite on the 4D part of it, but I'm definitely heavy on the role play side. And when you got a couple of really strong role players who like to have conversations with everybody from the I forget how the saying goes, the baker, candlestick maker, whatever, just everybody. You're like, oh my God, like we want to get to the actual fun. And, the guys who do prefer more of the tactics, or at least moving forward a little bit, are getting kind of bored. So how do you prevent one engagement style from basically taking over or shaping the campaign, especially if you've got a couple of strong personalities, or we'll say 5 of 6 or 4 of 6 players lean in that direction and 2 kind of start feeling left out?
Well, actually, I'm experiencing this in the games that I'm actually playing in more so than I am running. So I'm seeing this happen when there's 1 or 2 players who are very loud, very present in the moment. And it takes a GM who is equally present or more so present in the moment to recognize when the other players are not as engaged. And one of the things that, I think that I've done, at least at that table, is I've, engaged with the player who seems checked out, who seems overshadowed. I engaged with them player to player, or character to character. In this case, the game master will then see what I'm doing and engage with that player as well. Like ask, what are you doing? What is this character doing? What interests do they have in this scenario, the scene, or he makes a scene specifically for that character. And I've also done that where, I've got these characters acting in one scene, but then this one character who doesn't want to be part of that scene, I make a separate scene for that character. And I'll get these guys to a good stopping point. Then I'll shift spotlights over to this other player. I'm like, okay, your character sees these characters interacting, doing this scene. What is your character doing? Like, what are you wanting to interact with? What do you want to go find? And then that player, because I actually do have a player that does this quite often, they will leave the group to go explore, to go looking for trouble, so to say. And I'm okay with that. Like, okay, that's how they want to engage with this game. Fantastic. Let's engage with that. Sometimes the player doesn't want to be part of the main scene because everyone's just being too loud. Everyone's just being too there. And they're like, yeah, I'm not really feeling that scene. I want to go find something else to do. Maybe give them that moment, that one spotlight moment for their character to shine, and everyone else can kind of watch and engage from a distance. To be like, oh, Barry's gone off in that direction. Why is she going that way? And then when they realize what she's doing, like, oh, we forgot what the actual scenario is about, and they start going in that direction because Barry never forgets what the scenario is. She's actively looking for what happens next. And when people start going, hemming and hawing over like the minutia details that may not matter, she goes and finds the details that do matter. And I move the spotlight to her when she does that.
So eventually, my sessions are usually about 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. So eventually, at the end of 2 hours, how many chances do I have to give a player before I drop kick them, Max? I don't know. I feel like I have to kick them out of my table just hearing these stories. I don't know. But basically, like, vet your players. Oh my God, what are we talking about here? I would say to keep one style from dominating, you just make sure everyone's getting a turn. This is much more about the next question thing, but make sure everyone's getting their turn. And if someone's acting wrong, I mean, at the end of the session, like, you might not be at my table next time, basically. So
yeah,
maybe that's not the take I should take in this GMI.
Yeah, I think you just need to be like very aware and like keep watching and not like get wrapped up sometimes in the more active players, especially if somebody's just quiet. Some people can kind of start dominating. It can be easy to forget someone who's just kind of like hanging back and adding little things here and there. So you just have to be kind of like aware of the entire table, what's going on with everybody, and like check in with this person. Okay, this is going on. What are you doing? You have, that's just a skill you get after you develop after game mastering for a while. You just have to be, see the whole table.
Give them an opportunity. I mean, you're tailoring at the start. We talked about what your goal was. I'm trying to give a mix of that, but I think a player's going to be more satisfied if everyone has the same goal going into the game. So, which is really important to establish in session 0. If you have set your expectation, it's like, hey, it wasn't what you expected. Well, maybe it's not your table.
Okay. Well, I don't know if there's much more in this already, as Phil has said a couple times here, starting to leak over into the next question. And I think that we've done a pretty decent job here of, because these questions are pretty basic compared to some other episodes, probably to blessing for the guys on the panel. But we're just talking about, how you evaluate a group, engagement styles, like what they might be. The examples we gave were tactical, narrative, and discovery driven, but there are other engagement styles as well. And talk about how each person has a place in that. So I think we move on here. So let's don't forget to like this video, subscribe to all the panelist channels. Your support helps keep the conversation going and reach more tabletop RPG fans. So coming up in just a moment here, coming soon to a live stream near you, is managing spotlight time and table flow. Some people like to call it pacing. I don't like that term, but that's just a me thing. But before we do that, let's hit some super chats. Well, guess what? We got none, 0, not a zilch, 9 super chats. But I did star 1 comment, and it's because I wanted to go back to something Doc said a moment ago. Malachi says, Rifts benefits from session 0. This is true. But I think a lot of games do. Now, I don't know how old you are, Doc. I'm 52. And
Yeah,
I remember, what's that?
56.
56. Okay, so you definitely know this. We were playing long before session 0 was ever even a term, but we still did it. Whether we called it, hey, come on over and make characters, or hey, I've got this campaign idea. Let's roll some D&D characters, whatever it happened to be. It still kind of turned into a session 0 because we would talk about what game, type of game we're running, what game we want to play, what type of characters would be good for, whatever. Yes, you can now play that ranger with 95 wolves that follow you around. It'll work for this one, whatever happens to be. So I'm a huge fan. I don't like a lot of things modern, but it is definitely one of the terms that I've also latched onto that I'm grateful for.
Yeah, it's not really a modern thing. I think it's been given a modern name.
Right,
But
right,
yeah, because I mean, that was basically when you got together and rolled up the characters. Okay, what are we doing? What's kind of the scenario? That basically was the sessions they were in. You might play a little bit or an hour or so that day because you spent most of the other time setting up. So I mean, that was kind of always there. So it's not like really a new
It's so
development.
hard not to play a little on a session zero, right?
Yeah, it is.
Keep the
I
characters
always
moving.
try to get a little bit in just to like get
Yeah.
everybody's feet wet, even if we're
Yeah.
only going to do it for like a half hour or an hour to
Mhm.
just set
Yeah.
up what's going on.
Usually the GM for me, we would rotate, but it would be like, okay, someone slapped your mom, and then we just have a bar. You're in a bar, someone slapped your mom, and now we like play our characters where someone just slapped your mom.
For us, it was more about either if somebody was introducing a new game, then we would quickly just run through the core rules at that point. So we all kind of at least understood that. And if it was just somebody's new campaign or whatever, we would kind of role play in characters. So we understood that our characters were somewhat compatible, which we'd find out the next session that they weren't. But at least for that one, they were good. And I got a $50 super chat. Wow, here we go. That means I have to drink. Where's my shot glass? There it is. Okay. Thank you very much, Law Dog, for the $50 super chat. Really appreciate that. It says, I understand the GM should vet players, but how much of player engagement falls at the GM? At
Ooh.
what point does the GM's responsibility start and stop for keeping players engaged? Is it 80-20, 60-40, 50-50? Also, Max, drink. I will, sir. I will. Thank you very much. I appreciate the $50. So starting with Jade, because I'll at least leave it up here so you can read it. Sorry, your face is somewhat buried there. But
That's fine.
since it's still your segment, you go ahead and answer this first.
Sure. I don't know. I'm on the 60-40 fence. Like, I'm willing to go 60% of the way for the players. Some days the players might be the 60% and I might be the 40%. And that's fine too. But in this case, yes, vet your players, form the table you want to play at or you want to run. But at some point, your players are also going to have to, step in or step up to the plate and be able to offer, give something back to the game master, to be able to, meet the game master, maybe even halfway, just to interact with the world, interact with something more than just, okay, GM, what's in front of me? What can I hit? What can I smash? What can I break? But if that's the way the player engages, that's the way the player engages, and that's the table you've built. If you've built a table of, people who just want to break, kick doors down and loot the room, well, go play Munchkin. It's a faster game. But no, I mean, you as the game master have to make scenarios that your players want to get involved in. That's kind of your responsibility. Like, you are the one making the scenario, whatever it is, even if it's 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time, making the scenarios. That is your responsibility, unless you're running like a preformed one shot, then somebody else did the work for you. Have fun with that. But your players at some point have to meet you a certain distance to want to engage with that.
There's another way, Jade.
Okay.
Sorry.
Please tell me. I'm the one with the least experience here.
The scenario can be a byproduct of your players making choices on their own.
Absolutely. Consequences are always a thing.
Or proactive action. Constantly trying to achieve one's goals. That's just which is what I preach. Obviously, I would say that a GM tends to cause players to be not engaged. So because they are attempting to tell a story. However, just like I tell my students, I'm a teacher, being interested is not something that typically is a natural thing. Like, it is a choice to be interested in things. Like, I can teach like astrophysics, but if you're like a bored teenager, even though I'm telling you how stars move around, I mean, how much more interesting can we get here? It's stars moving around in space. But then it's like, it's just a bunch of numbers and crap you're throwing at me. So there's a little bit of it where it's like the player has to decide that they are going to be interested in what's going on in front of them. But I would say that they decide not to more easily if the GM's over there telling them some crap story.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's mainly about giving them a situation and allowing them to react. And every now and then you got to prod them by, having something happen. But for the most part, they should be driving, making the decisions. Like I usually like to end on sessions kind of on a cliffhanger where they've committed to doing something. So then I have an idea, okay, this is where I'm going to go with this in the next session. And I can prep what I need for that.
And they're going to become less interested when they try to do something and then you say, not on my rail, Buster. And they're like, oh, you're waiting for me to say the magic words. I'll just tap out. Thanks.
Well, I mean, and that's something I do at the end of every session is I ask them, hey, where do you think things are going next? Where do you think the game or, the next session is going to go? So I'm only planning 1 week out. I'm only developing what's happening around them 1 week out. Now, greater story arcs, things that happen in the world are going to happen on kind of a timeline. The things that they don't see or things they choose not to interact with continue to exist and they continue on their trajectories moving out into space. And if they choose to intersect those things, they will intersect them at some point down the line. And whatever choices they made affect that trajectory of whatever they interacted with or chose not to interact with. So I'm every week I'm engaging with my players hey, what's happening next? Where are you going next? So I can plan for that.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you do need to force this situation, which happens, for instance, in the very last game I ran, I needed to introduce a new character. I needed them to get to a certain place they weren't intending to go. So I kind of forced their hand with weather effects, but I integrated it into the campaign where basically the wizard that was thwarting them basically forced them to go a certain way by creating a storm while they're at sea. So if you do find yourself, okay, I have to get to this place, make it a part of the story, make it part of the scenario. So it isn't just okay, he's just telling us what to do. Okay, no, there's an actual obstacle that we need to avoid. So avoid doing it whenever possible, but just when a situation like that does come up where, okay, I need this to happen, integrate it somehow, make it necessary for the plot to progress, for them to make a certain decision, and then back off it once you get it going in that direction. Because a lot of times it can be very tempting to kind of okay, well, I want them to go here, here, and here, and here, but you have to let them ultimately make the decisions. And when you need to put up a hard wall, just integrate it into the situation, the scenario, make it as organic feeling as possible.
I have never lost engagement faster than when someone is clearly trying to get me to do something. A GM. If I'm a player and I'm walking around, it's I'm going to go east. A giant thunderstorm blows in. I'm okay, so should I go this way? That house is on fire. Do I go? Okay, I'm crossing the bridge. It's good. It's a solid bridge.
You feel excellent about crossing this bridge.
Does it sound good when I stomp on it?
Artificial walls are the most game-killing thing I have ever experienced. I will agree with you.
Don't have them. Yeah. Don't have them, guys. Just have it be a reaction to what your players are doing. That's all I'm saying.
Now, if they're the ones who set the house on fire, then obviously
burn them to death. It's fine. Right. They love getting burned to death when they set fires. I promise.
Now, I did, Max. I did see a comment up here that I think matters in this moment.
Okay, who's it from?
It is from UN2XS.
All right.
Does the game system matter in engagement?
Just as a side note, and I'm not going to have, I don't care if people get angry at me over this. I don't generally put up non-member or non-super chats anymore.
But I think this one's very important.
That's fair. Go ahead.
To me, I don't think the game system actually matters, but I do think there are elements of specific game systems that lend to player engagement based on those players knowing that system and knowing how to participate in that game system. There are levers and dials that players have at their disposal in specific game systems that facilitate engagement by themselves. What are the rest of your thoughts?
I think you guys. Go ahead. You can go ahead.
No. I think that is only really a huge issue if you're playing games that use those like weird meta currencies with the push and pull mechanics, which I will have nothing to do.
2D20.
Yeah,
2D20
I won't even. Yeah, I won't even play those games. I mean,
I'm with
then
you
it
on
just
that.
becomes this weird struggle session between the game masters and the players.
Yep.
Like, well, I'm gonna make it rain. It's muddy because you get your token and you're jerks.
Yeah.
It's like, no. Yeah, ultimately the game system should just facilitate figuring out probabilities. It should stay out of the way. It should be in the background as much as possible, I think.
So this goes back to my original point. Basically, it depends what the heck you want to get out of your game. If you want to play a tactical skirmish game, then the game system sure matters, because if you're playing some light little piddly, I'm going to roll a d6 and it's higher than your d6. We're playing war to establish who's been winning the combat versus, I don't know, the crunchy one people like, Pathfinder. I'm not following. I'm going to say Pathfinder because Tyler's cool. And then the other one I would say, if you're an immersion objective type player, easy d6, number one. And just a quick plug. I'll plug it some time, but we're going to interview him this weekend, so just heads up. But or next weekend. But easy, any sort of light system where the rules can kind of just like facilitate a sort of amorphous result or allow you to kind of play jazz with what a result means or what a result doesn't mean. I think that's better for an immersive thing. So it's like single rules are more of a catch-all for lots of different actions versus like, I'm going to take a sidestep to the right and then I'm going to get a +3 on my whatever. Who cares? And then as a social game, probably good things like Fiasco or those types of like super social games like that. Probably if you just want like a social experience, at that point, it doesn't matter. You're not really playing. And that's fine. It's not bad.
Okay. One day I want to get somebody on. We got to go to the next segment here so that we're not running too long on this one. So hopefully the question was answered. Thank you. Can't see his name now. It's all grayed out. There we go. Unto excess. Also, Law Dog, I haven't forgetting. Wow, I'm not even drunk yet, and I'm can't talk. Thank you very much, Law Dog, for the super chat. I appreciate that. And I forgot what I was saying. So we're just gonna move on to the next segment. Oh, one of the reasons, just so folks don't get too upset about this, one of the reasons why I kind of avoid the non-member, non-super chat conversation is because a lot of you guys do have great comments. And we don't have the time to react to them all. I'm on a hard stop here at a certain point. That's why we got to get through the segment. So it isn't about give me your monies, or is it about give me?
But just to be on the safe side, give Max your monies.
There you
just
go.
To be on the safe side.
And don't forget, we do have a Discord. You can join, ask the questions in the Discord, and I'm sure there's going to be somebody there happy to answer questions like that.
Absolutely. All of that you can find in the description. Make sure you follow these folks' channels. All right, well, let's move on to our next segment, which covers managing spotlight time and table flow, or pacing, if that's the term you want to use. And we're going to meet our second panelist. So we have Phil the Thrill here. Who are you? What content do you create? And what is your tabletop RPG experience?
My name's Phil the Thrill. I am the uglier half of Off the Rails Roleplay with Mr. Max Boivin. He rebranded his channel, and I put my stink on it with him. And we have like every other week, we got a little variety show where we try to interview somebody. And I was just saying, like, we're going to interview DM Scotty on the next episode. So it's going to be 8 days from now. So that Saturday. So super excited to talk to him about Easy D6. That's like my favorite role-playing game ever. So I'm happy to talk to him about it. And I just started the Rumble Off the Rails roleplay. So if you guys prefer Rumble, we send you that. And I put the link for the YouTube one in there. So we're still working on that. That's me.
Okay. So before I ask you the question, it's not the alcohol, folks. It's not the alcohol, not yet. But no, what I was going to say is I'd really like to have somebody on the 4D side, because I've argued with, I've argued with them as well, but also somebody on I don't know what to call it. They'd call it 1D. Just the person. Here's the quick example.
We have lots of names. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
Go ahead.
move the tune. Like I move my tune, and you can get in some pretty knockdown, drag out arguments with those folks when it comes to the fact like I consider it not good role playing. I am role playing. I am playing the role of the fighter. That's my job. Just because I'm not doing these and thous and whatever else it is, it's like. The term role playing means different things to different people. So that is actually a discussion I want to have in the future at some point. Not right now. Now is not the time to do it. But I'd love to have. So if you're one of those folks out there who can't stand the thespian style role players or those who always have to be in character, please, hit up the Discord, because I absolutely want to, especially if you're legit. If you're legit about that, you can hold the discussion. You can have the discussion. You can hold your own. You can, discuss like a normal person, not hemming and hawing all the time. I'd love to have you on a show to have that discussion, because that one very much interests me, because I'm not 4D, but I lean in that direction. And man, if I had some knockdown, drag out arguments about, we'll have to agree to disagree, or we're gonna get into a fist fight over this stuff. So,
Jeez.
All right. So let's ask Phil the question for segment 2 now, which is, what practical habits keep 1 or 2 players from dominating the table, and how do you call quieter players forward without forcing participation or creating pressure? And this is really apt for new players, but I know you kind of wanted to tackle this segment, so however you want to take it, what you got?
Okay. First of all, I highly advocate for vetting players on your table. So because we live in the online age, you can pick good players that are going to have the same goals that align with your goals. If you want to have that tactical war game, go find those tactical war gamers. You want to have the immersive role-playing experience, go find those guys. They're out there. You just want to shoot the shit and talk about goblins, find that guy. So I would say that first, but when we're talking about new players or training players, like in groups, then so we have some big ones. Even for us, we had what we called the training wheels. Me, Max, and Crispy and Rick, when we were all playing those games every Monday. What we would do, we started talking over each other a lot, and so what we implemented was the round robin style. So the GM takes their turn, and then because we're doing Hollywood Squares, then it goes like around the screen. Everyone gets their turn, and then it comes back to the GM, and then the GM reacts to everyone's turn. So basically, on your turn, and this is what you do on your turn, so it doesn't get too long, because your turn should only be like, I walked over to the refrigerator and I opened it. That's a turn. So on your turn, you say where you are, you say what you're doing, you say what you say. And then if you're going to have a conversation usually we'll let you do like a back and forth twice. So it'll be like 4 lines of dialogue and then move on to the next guy. Usually that takes up a full turn. So we're very much strict about make sure that when you talk, you're only doing this much stuff. And then people that don't want to play, it's like, well, it's your turn now. So am I forcing you? Am I creating pressure? I don't mind creating pressure. So I guess it's a game. We try to make it very low stakes situation. You're telling me about some toast you're making. What's got you so nervous, buddy? You know what I mean? Like it's just a very low stakes situation. That's what I would encourage them to understand. So basically a little bit of coaching and understanding in that session 0 about expectations. And then we just get into it. Games are short. They're like an hour and a half, especially a new game, probably gonna be an hour, because we like highly immersive, always in character style. And that can get kind of exhausting at hour like 2.5. Like you're like, oh man, you gotta like get out.
No, it does not.
Tap out at like an hour. Well, I mean, how much have you done?
8-hour fully immersive sessions before.
I mean, I'm probably down to do that. But it's like sometimes people just want to decompress and talk about what's happened. It's like, finally I get to talk out of character. So
that's fair.
So that's what I would do. I'd start small games, maybe like an hour for those training sessions with new players. Because that's what we're talking about. Otherwise, I vetted everybody. and then make sure there's a round robin. Everyone has a clear understanding during session 0 what that rule is, and then where you are, what you're doing, what you say. That would be the rules I would set in. That's what I got.
Guys, got anything to? This is your conversation.
Well, I mean, it's it's a very structured way of doing it. I like to be a little more free form with it. Like, for example, sometimes conversations need to go on, like with an NPC, need to go on a little longer. I'm very strict when it comes to actual like combat turns. Then I have like, I have you in a certain order in the screen. You go, you go, you go, you go. For the other stuff, I mean, as far as like controlling players who are like a little more boisterous than others, let's say, because I've had a couple experiences that with the game I'm running where it's not malicious, but somebody just like will talk till the end of time if they're given the room to it. I'll actually have, like, for instance, we had one situation when the player was new. I actually had one of the NPCs like call him out on it during the course of the game. Is like, like, look, new guy, Sir Edward is in charge here. And maybe you need to back off. And the player got the message very quickly. And once or twice, I've actually just sent people DMs like, back the hell off a little bit, because you're like stepping on this person, and that will generally solve that problem. And if it doesn't, then that's probably somebody who needs to go. If it gets to be like a situation where somebody just like, no, I'm going to like run this show and is making other people uncomfortable or stepping on other people, then you just need to get rid of that person.
That's the
balls.
that's the secret option for goals to get out of role playing. Ego stroking is what I call it. So the person that's there to get their ego stroked, unfortunately, that's their goal, and it's not great. That's what the problem players, right? Or whatever. If I just say one real quick, Jade, during the those big long conversations you're talking about with the NPCs, where you think maybe you don't take turns, it's kind of cool to like let your other players go, because then it adds a little more motion to the scene. You don't want to just have like exposition. That's kind of boring in any situation. So you don't want just an NPC talking to you over and over. The NPC says something, you're having a conversation with him. This guy's sitting back, he's lighting a cigarette. This other guy's playing with some figurine or something. Just kind of to add a little motion to the scene. It makes it more vivid, more realistic, and more memorable. I think.
Engage the five senses.
Yeah. And there are natural like kind of break points even in a longer conversation where you can, okay, I'm going to get back to you. Okay, so you guys, what are you up to while this is going on? So you make sure it doesn't like run out of control in a particular direction.
And the organic style is preferable. That's why I called it training wheels. So when you're dealing with like new players and stuff, you get the round robin to get everyone out of that whole, I'm going to be a wallflower, I'm going to be a passive player that never does anything, like mode, or I'm the one that's always talking, everyone shut up, super paladin mode or whatever. Anyways, sorry, Jade.
Oh, no, you're fine. I mean, this is your segment. I have actually, so I do normally keep things in turn order. It's kind of like the bread and butter of ICRPG is always stay in turn order. It's part of the main core of the game. But I am a very big fan of, okay, here's where I pause. I'll get back to you in a moment. And I move the scene to the next player. And now if they're observing the scene, they have their chance to interact with that at that moment. Or they can kind of interject onto the other person's role play if they're in the same scene together, and then they can role play together and with the NPC or what have you of the scene. But eventually, I'm going to say, okay, here's where I'm going to pause. I'm going to move the scene or the spotlight to the next player to see what they're actively doing, because every character at the table or in the game should be doing something. No one just sits idle for hours on end doing literally nothing.
100%.
So I'm constantly in turn order, moving the scene from player to player, trying to figure out like where are they, what are they doing, and what are they trying to find or do.
Yeah. Where are you?
And it's
definitely
saying. Yep. Where are you? What are you doing? What are you saying? Exactly.
And you know, those really cool moments happen like well, let's say one guy walks off to go talk to the big boss man in his garage. The other two guys are hanging out at the car. Like some kind of cool's probably happening out there. Like they're just kind of looking around at all the mooks, like put stuff in a truck or something. I don't know what they're doing, but they're probably having a conversation too. Getting that's when those campfire chats are best. It's like interspersed inside of this moving action. You don't ever actually have the campfire chat. It's just like these little character development peaks that are happening. That's when those things can happen.
Yeah, just like throw them something weird goes on. Okay, what do you guys think of this? And they'll have a conversation back and forth, and that just keeps everyone engaged while something is going on. Like people who are out like watching outside and stuff like that. They, you know, have something going on out there for them to interact with.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna harp on this just a little bit more. And I understand, you know, from Phil. Again, Phil, you get the question first because it's your segment. I probably don't need to ask you this one, but I'm going to anyway. So describe your approach when a player genuinely prefers observing rather than speaking.
Okay, before the drop kick happens. All right, so if they genuinely prefer observing, I would ask them to kind of like, if they're, so we've had a session 0 ideally. Like a lot of things have had to have happened for this to have happened actively in a game. So maybe it's like some sort of weird family reunion crazy game. But I mean, you just let them. Who cares? It's going to be 3 hours. You don't want to play? Fine, just sit there and go eat chips. Like, why? I'm not going to force someone to play a game. But I'll just like look at them. They're not going to do anything. It's not my job to make sure people are doing stuff, really. That's how I feel about it.
Well, I mean, I'll like move to them. Like, okay, so what are you doing?
That's like that's like poison to me. I can't do that. That's poison to me. What are you doing?
When that happens, you know, I've had that happen a couple times at different tables, but it hasn't happened for a long time. Generally, that's a conversation that happens outside the game. Like I'll ask that person, hey, you know, let's go meet at the pub, you know, have a few pints and discuss, you know, what's going on. You know, where are you in your life? What's going on with you at the table? You know, that's a conversation that happens away from the table for me. You know, I'm trying to figure out like what's going on with them, because presumably these are my friends, right? You know, these are the people I game with consistently. They're my friends. I'm concerned about my friends. I take great pride in, you know, making sure my friends are doing all right. You know, so if a person's having a bad time, and it's going to show, it will show at the table if they're having a really tough go of things, I'm going to have a conversation with them outside the table. And, you know, I might buy them a pint and be like, hey, talk to me. What's going on? And you know, get to know what's going on with that person, you know.
Yeah, if someone has like the flu or they're going through some terrible stuff, like stay home. Don't come here. The problem with someone who doesn't do anything in the game is that when you're imagining the game, there's this like floating entity that is their character. Basically a pink cloud that trails the party. It's like, now I roll my 20-sided die. Like, okay. Yes. If you're playing a tactical role game, probably doesn't matter. Like a tactical like war game, something like that.
Yeah,
someone can alpha game them and they just want to hang out. It's basically just a social event for them. That's what I'm saying. Like that player, their goal is the social, and that's fine. I'm not going to push them to do anything. If they're getting what they want out of it, then I guess that's a success for me.
Okay. So is there nothing else? I guess this again, I'm a little struggling here because you know, Phil is the 4D guy, and most of my follow-ups are kind of outside the scope of 4D. But I guess, you know, I'm still going to ask you again
Don't worry,
here.
I'll tell
I
you the
think,
best answers anyways. It's fine. Go ahead.
this is probably more for Doc, maybe Jade, because he mentioned some of this as well. But explain which tools, initiative order, structured terms, table contracts, have worked best for rotating spotlight time in and out of combat. So, for example, for you specifically, you've already talked about vet your players. You're going to have strict timelines and things like that. But what more encouragement tools you use for this? Whether they're prop pieces or whether they're I don't know, like a sand timer that you flip over or whatever. What things have you done directly to help with to rotate that spotlight?
If you're asking me, I'm just gonna assume you're asking me. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Doc.
yeah. It's your segment, so you always get the
Okay,
question
cool.
first.
Basically, there's the understanding that everyone gets a turn, and so if someone is actively like stepping on someone's turn, you just after that person that stepped on the turn goes, you say, like, let's say Doc Flamingo got skipped. I say, Doc, or his character name. What do you do? Like, Doc, your turn. I'm signaling it's their turn when I do that. That happens. Except by character name.
Gotcha.
That's the only
So
thing.
you just keep. I get it. You keep it just in the DM to player or GM to player exposition right there, and just kind of keep the game flowing through that. Okay. Jade, Doc.
Yeah, I just kind of like hang on, I'll get back to you, and then just move on to the next player. And usually people will just are cool with that. Don't make it into it. The main thing is that not to make it into a confrontation unless it absolutely has to be. I think just be like, I'll pause there a moment, and we're going to see what's happening over here. And generally, that's the end of it. I found.
How often have you and Max gotten into fist fights over role-playing games? That's what I mean. You guys are always like, occasionally have to take someone out by the dumpster. It's like, what the hell's going on at your tables? It's awesome.
Generally,
I want to go to y'all's table.
I move the scene when things begin to stagnate almost immediately. I pause, let the person think, because a lot of times stagnation happens when the player has basically run across a scenario that they don't know how to interact with immediately. They just kind of get stuck, like, how do I interact with this? So then I pause the scene. I'm like, okay, let you think about that. I'm going to move on to the next player. And I keep things in turn order per ICRPG. Start with the game master's left and move clockwise around the table. For a virtual table, that doesn't really help because, they're not arranged clockwise around you. So I line up the names across the bottom of the screen because I get little icons with their name on it. And I go from me to my right, left to right. I keep it in player turn order because at the end of the day, it's still a game. Games have turns. Games have players. Games have turns. And you keep it in the turn order. Everybody gets a chance to do something per round. And yes, I still use rounds. I'm still a 3-5 player, and at my core, it's where I started. So every scenario has rounds. Now those rounds are, for me, are indeterminate amount of time. They're not 6 seconds. They're not the like little blip of whatever. No, they're however long they actually need to be for the scene. And I'm trying to give every player an equal amount of time for their character. So if one character does something for an hour, now the character is doing something for an hour. The player might say for talk for like 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes most. But their character's engaged for an hour. So then I'm going to move to the next person. Okay, so for the next hour, what is your character doing? Walk me through what your plans are for this next hour. And they're like, well, I might be at this thing for 5 hours. Cool, let's do that. Your character's now engaged for 5 hours, and I move to the next player, and I'm tracking like where people are, what they're doing for the time that they say they want to be active. Okay, cool. Next big thing happens. I start back at the turn order, back with the player on my left.
If you're just organized and orderly, 90% of the problems are gone. Is my experience. If you just run a tight ship and you know where you're going and you keep consistency, the big problems are generally avoided right off the bat before they even happen.
And then once you get a few reps in, you can kind of lift those restrictions and have a more organic conversational style game, I think. But I'm really curious about this what'd you index card RPG, Jade? It sounds interesting. You're saying a lot of things that make me think it sounds good.
It's very rules light. I switched to it from 3.5 because it is so rules light. And
3.5
basically
is so
an
not.
ability. Yeah, an ability. Yes, that's the core.
Well, this is an
second
older
edition.
version, I think now, but
Yep, that's second.
Is that
I've
evil?
got
Is
Master
that
Edition
evil?
now.
well,
That's the
only if you
wizard law.
summon the actual demon.
I don't want to do that.
Well, then don't do it.
How many index cards do you have to make to summon the demons?
Just one. No, I've enjoyed Index Card RPG because I got burnt out on Pathfinder 3.5. Again, that's where I started.
So that's like a real pendulum shift, right? Because Pathfinder is supposed to be like heavy, right? Okay, yeah.
Very much.
I highly recommend you try out EZD6. I'll try Index Card. You try EZD6.
I have tried EZD6, and I do like it.
Nice. Okay, well then I'll try Index Card then. You painted me into a corner.
So I'm going to turn to something, since we're going through this segment a little faster than I thought. I'm going to turn to something a little more on the negative side. And again, nice. Phil, we're starting with you. I'd like you to describe, if to the best of your ability, or imagine. I'll even let you imagine if you just don't have an example of this. Describe a time when a player dominated table time and the specific habit or rule or concept that you use to restore balance without shaming the player. Or with shame, I don't care, with or without shaming the player, but preferably the idea. But just so folks know out there, and this isn't for the three panelists, for the rest of you, especially those in chat who think this is supposed to go a certain way. This is supposed to be for a broader audience. It'd be really easy to say, vet your players, kick them out, we're done, show's over. That isn't what this is about.
Step 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we're actually trying to have practical advice from somebody who might believe that, and then somebody who's more on the therapeutic side, we'll call it, whatever. So the idea here is, while some answers, like even for me, it'd be like, that player's just gone. That doesn't make for help for the masses, we'll just say. And this, we want the masses to watch this and learn something from it, get ideas from it. So that's the reason for some of these questions and the way I ask them.
Okay. Well, then I feel like I've answered this question in one way. I'm going to answer it in a different way this way.
Okay.
One really good thing that I found helps me a lot, because I can be kind of an ass, is that I will, when I record my games and I watch them back, first of all, you never have to take notes again, and you get to see what you do in role playing. It's kind of awesome. Especially if it's only like a 2-hour game and you get 6 hours of us talking about one round of combat. It's different. I don't know what those people are doing, but that's not what I'm talking about. Like a quick, good game where role-playing matters. I would say record your game, watch it, and then maybe the GM will be like, hey, I recorded the game. Why don't you watch minute 30 to 40? See what you did. And but yeah, I mean, obviously vet your players, kick them out, do the drop kick thing. But when I correct them in there, I just say it's the next person's turn, or next person's I'm gonna stop them. But then, yeah, it's mostly about outside of the game, talking to your players. I'm not trying to do it in the game. I'm trying to play the game. That's what my answer is.
Yeah, you don't want to make everybody uncomfortable by calling someone out in mid-session if you can at all avoid it. If it comes to that, then it's like you need to have a very serious conversation with someone afterwards. If it comes down to that,
I would stop the game. I'd wrap it up in the next 15 minutes if it's becoming a huge issue, and then talk to them some other time, probably the next day.
Generally, when I've got a player dominating the table, it's because I'm probably a little disengaged myself, or I'm maybe too engaged with that player and what they're doing. And I know that can be a failing of mine. I've actually had it happen several times where a player is really digging deep into the roots and lore of the world and really trying to get to a point where things can kind of explode outward in the next section, and really start getting gravitas and momentum towards a major world goal. And some, part of me wants to engage with that player and be like, yes, that, that is what, I'm hoping for. That's what I'm striving for. That's what I'm hoping my players, want to go do, is just start getting momentum and going and doing things in the world. But then, I have to take a step back and be like, this is sure, I'm the game runner. I'm the person, making the scenarios for them to explore and solve or interact with. I'm the one putting things in the world. But at the same time, I have to take a step back and be like, I might have made this world, but this story is not mine. This story is theirs. This story is not just one player, it's all of the players at the table. So I have to, be like, okay, we're going to pause you there. And then I'm going to have to interact with another character. I'm going to have to kind of somewhat calm myself down because, that player was like really driving at the roots of things. But now I've got to go over to this player and be like, okay, you're seeing everything that's going on. What are you doing? And in some cases, players will ignite the fires or embers in other players to want to be that kind of active, to want to be that kind of center stage. And I'm here for that. Like if player A is really, getting into it, and player B is seeing that energy, that interaction of like what they're doing and what they're digging at, and I move to them, they're like, yeah, no, let's keep this going. I'm going to explore in a slightly different direction. I'm going to engage with those players, and I'm going to try to keep the engagement as equal as I can until I get to a player who just doesn't want to do it. At which point I'm like, okay, what do they want to do?
I find that back before I just played with like the same guys all the time, and I'd like have a bunch of these different like nerd spheres I'd go into. I found that like as the players that are, or the player characters that or the players that are being very passive, the move is whatever the heck they just said, it had a huge impact, and there's something massive happening just because they did that thing. And so it's like really giving them agency, I guess, in that world. It's like, oh crap, I can do stuff. Like I feel like that's the eye opener. It's like, oh, I can do anything I want. Nice. So,
well, things that nope, this isn't about me. It's about you guys. So we're just gonna move on to the next. I was gonna give you my answer, but nope.
I want to know your answer, Max.
Yes, give us your answer.
Tell
wanna know
me.
your answer.
Yeah.
Please.
What is a dirty?
Well, I mean, I don't run
Capella?
games. I definitely don't run games like the 4D folks. But if somebody is just taking too much time, I will just, I don't want to call it pivot, but what I tend to do is I make something actionable for the players who aren't. Something happened recently is one of the players he's one of those guys that was trying to be everywhere at one time. And so instantly I just stopped talking to him. You guys, the phone is ringing and that nobody's supposed to have this, kind of thing. What crap, and all of a sudden it just instantly engaged them. So I like to do stuff like that. I will literally cut people off. Does that surprise anybody that's watched the live stream? No, I will literally cut people off in the mid-sentence just to add some, I don't want to call it energy, but just to wake up some of those people, especially if somebody is kind of usurping time. Because I don't like taking role-playing time away from somebody who wants that really in-depth thee and thou give the monologue, but at some point there, dude, you're buying rope. I don't care. Okay, roll your damn haggle skill. You get 10% off because you made it. I don't need you to justify and tell me how you went to the car dealership last week and mimic that here with the rope dealer. That doesn't concern me. At the same time, if you're trying to make a contact, you're the type of person who likes to make contacts within the city, and you do low-level contacts because people don't look at them so much. Well, then now I got to role play with you a little bit. Okay, cool. That's all good stuff. But I'm going to make sure now, if the players just don't engage, and this doesn't happen often, it could be like you guys were talking about, it could be a bad day. It could be new players. This happens with new players a lot. I'm not going to grill them. What are you doing? Why don't you do this? Come on. This is what happens around you. Let's do this. And I've seen people do things like that before. I'll just be like, kind of like what Barry used to do with Malachi. Okay, well, you're thinking about that. So the conversation we were having over here, and then I'll just kind of go back because I don't want anybody to necessarily feel uncomfortable, but I'm always going to encourage, and I've just been so blessed for the most part. I can probably put on one hand all the players that wouldn't do this, with players that would help the other characters, especially new guys. Because I'm the type of person, I won't say the opposite. I'm going to be hyperbolic when I say this, but I'm kind of the opposite of the 4D folks. I want new players that are uncomfortable at the table. And but I've always been blessed with players, with experienced players that are more than willing to help.
Pro new players, just so we're clear.
Not at your table.
No, it's fine. New players are great.
No, I got you. I'm trying to play into some of the hyperbole here, but the
I'm
idea,
the victim of it, Max.
what's the idea of oh shit, I forgot what I was saying. See, I keep doing that. I'm too old now to try to remember stuff that's in my brain. Anyway,
you like new players?
Yeah. Well, again, they were helping out. I want them to feel engaged without having them feel forced. Now, if after a few sessions they're just not picking it up, they're an old grognard who only wants to eat chips and board game, you're not going to be long at my table because I'm going to push back against that. If you're going to be, and I'm going to call you guys out again, a 4D guy that thinks that you're going to manipulate my world on me and tell me there's a pen on the desk where there isn't, well, you're wrong about that too. My point is that there's balance, and I am the game master, and yeah, I'm the game master, and no, the players aren't going to run my world. I'm going to run my world. They're going to interact with my world. That's the way it's going to be. And I've run very successful many year-long campaigns doing it that way, and it works. But the idea is engagement. It's engaging the player without forcing the player is the way I see it. Hopefully, I didn't ramble too much about that.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
I heard this diet thing once where it was like, if you eat the good stuff, then you don't have enough time to eat the bad stuff. So I'm a fat guy, so that obviously didn't work out. But I think it applies where it's like, if you cultivate good players out of those weaker players, it's gonna push out that big over umbrella of that scene hog player. They're gonna peak out. So my games often it's like everyone's trying to grab the scene, so it's like we have to take turns, otherwise it's like no one's gonna get a turn. So we have to like insert ourselves into things and take turns. So I would say,
again, there's no one size fit all,
and it'll push out the bad behavior.
No, I got you. And I guess what I was trying to say for me is there's no one size fits all. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of psychology involved with that, as much as I disagree and despise psychology. There is a little bit in there in understanding the people at the table. And so when I was running my games, I was in the military, so I didn't always have I couldn't curate the table to the best of my ability. I was just happy that we had 6, 7, 8 people ready to play. Let's do this. Oh my God, this is awesome. And so you worked with them. Some people got kicked out. Some people weren't interested in our style. Most of them thought we were too role playing. Oh my God, you guys are like the theater kids. They were calling us the theater kids, right? So that's fine. If this table isn't for you, if you don't want to be in character, which is what my expectation is, you're talking in character. You don't say, "Hey, I asked Phil if he can do that." You actually say, "Hey, Phil, can I do that?" Things like that. If that's not for you, then you don't belong at my table. But that doesn't mean I won't pull up another table for you to have your game. Just don't let us hear you because you're obnoxious. So I'll let you guys respond to that, and then we'll start moving into the next segment. What was that? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I will say that I'm actually part of a weekend game that there is spotlight issues sometimes where certain characters, certain players will attempt to hog more spotlight time for what their character's doing. And the game master, he's really good about moving the spotlight when it needs to, especially when he sees some of the other players who are not part of that scene kind of check out a little bit. But we, I guess the point I'm trying to make is you will have moments where a player really wants to be in the spotlight and really wants to shine. And it's finding out, it's paying attention to your other players at the table as well. And, we GMs, we have to have split focus. We really do. So it's giving them that moment to shine, because they're in that moment. They want to be here. They want to do that thing. But you really got to make sure everyone else at the table is also there in the moment, and having being engaged with the table and being engaged with what's going on. And when they're not, you have to move the spotlight to them and be like, hey, what's going on? Tell me about your character. What are they doing? And it's those moments that can make or break for those players at that table. I feel like I'm rambling, sorry. But no, I'm experiencing this on my weekend games, where I've got like one or two players who really, really like the spotlight, and sometimes they metagame to get into the spotlight.
Yeah, the phone's ringing. You're 3 rooms down.
Right.
I'm answering the phone. Yeah.
Okay.
Those guys are the worst, man. Oh my God.
Yeah, they're again, there's a table for everybody out there. This is one of the things that I say is that role-playing games can be for everyone. They aren't for everyone. And that's the type of player to me that that's the worst. Is the metagamer. Now, some metagaming is going to happen. You learn the rules of the game, so you learn to manipulate the rules. I don't have much of a problem with that. But it's the guy that wants to be in 6 places at one time. Like, you need to slow your roll. But I did it, and I did. It only takes 10 seconds. Stop. You've had your turn. You've had your time. You're back here picking your butt or whatever it is you said you're doing. Doc is who gets to do something now. And yes, he's going to get the key and the glory before you, because you decided you wanted to loot a body over there and he wanted to pull the sword from the stone. Doesn't matter. Next time, take the better option, whatever. So
Doc kicked his butt too.
And he got the
Sometimes
sword.
you got to be that. Sometimes you got to be that game master who goes, whoa, hold on. You've had your turn. You've had your moment. The scene is moving to somebody else in the same time frame, and you can't be in 2 places at once. So you've had your moment. We're moving on to the next player, and sometimes you just have to be that game master and to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And another thing I like to make very clear to my players at a game is that the gods are my NPCs and they are watching. If I feel divine intervention is called for, like, Crom is angry.
Not all gods are not all gods are benevolent.
Crom thinks you need a broken ankle. You've been running around a lot today. You seem to be everywhere.
Oh, you good? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I won the fight, Malachi. In fact, I got into a lot of trouble for winning that fight. Anyway, for folks who are watching later, like, what the hell is he talking about? Sorry, there's some stuff going on in chat. So don't forget to share the stream. Tap that hype button. That's right. If you have access to that hype button, you get 3 a week. This has got to be the video that you do that to. Hype it. Do it. And help us get this discussion trending. In segment 3, our panelists will talk about raising or lowering the energy as needed. Again, I think some of this might have already been discussed a little bit, but we're going to focus a little bit more on like, whoa, slow your roll, or let's lift you up. If somebody seems like he's taking too much Xanax or something, another person's on some speed, who knows? Maybe you got to do something to counteract that a little bit. But we're going to finish this up with the super chats that didn't happen again, but I think I start a couple of other ones here. Nope, just have Law Dog gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much. And those of you who got those memberships, well, here's what you get out of that. Not much. You get to so instead of access to 2,000 videos, you get access to about 5,000 videos, some of which go back pretty far, and some of which I kind of wish didn't still exist on the internet. But you know what? They're there for you.
That's way more videos.
That's way more videos. That's right. Over double. Stuff that you're probably not interested in, though. Everything from what used to be a video game live stream to the old Legion Myth weekly live stream that had comic book reviews and so forth. But what else do you get out of that? Oh, you're going to get to hang on. So this episode has a hard cap at 2.5 hours, but we'll keep the conversation going if necessary beyond that. But whatever happens beyond that 2.5 hours, that's for members only. So you'll have access to that, and it'll also boost the possibility of your chats being read publicly or coming in to join us during segment 4. That's not to deter anybody else. Last week, I think everybody that jumped in wasn't a member. I'm just saying that we are going to prioritize super chatters and members first. And now 5 new people have memberships. So thank you, Law Dog, for that. All right. So I guess we just jump into our final question, talking about raising or lowering energy as needed. Of course, now we're going to move on over to Doc Flamingo. So, sir, who are you? What content do you create? And what is your tabletop RPG experience?
Okay, I'm Doc Flamingo. Let's see, I've got a couple games out. Age of Blood and Iron. It's on PDF on drive-through, print on demand on Amazon. Age of Empires and Ashes and Empires, just a PDF on drive-through. I just printed a new game, well, more of a game supplement called War Engine, which is a plug-in mass combat, siege warfare, and naval battle system for games that don't include them or include very bad ones. This is usually the case where they do. Small little book that's on Amazon now, and hopefully will come out on drive-through soon. And I've got another game which is going to go into playtesting this year and hopefully be out by the end of the year, called Days of High Adventure. It's kind of my take on the OSR style. And you can find my stuff on drive-through and Amazon. I started playing in 1980 at the age of 11. Played first OD&D, then moved into basic, and then quickly into AD&D. From there, rode the winds of what was coming out, Gamma World, Top Secret, all that stuff. And then I eventually got into Rollmaster. It made my brain hurt, so I decided to make my own games. You're caught up now.
All right. So looking at your most energetic campaigns, those that just, people showed up for, they're like, yeah, and they're sitting there, they're overly caffeinated, just bouncing around. What methods helped you adjust the pacing and player focus in the moment? And how would you guide a game master who struggles with sluggish or distracted tables? And for the record, kick them out is not the answer. Okay, not for this. We're trying to give advice here. So, no. How would you, like, if you've got a game master that talks to you and says, "Man, I got a couple players at the table, or I got an entire table, and they're just so uppity. I'm trying to keep things moving, but they're, one guy, like I was saying a moment ago, is like over here and over here and over here, and another guy is always like wants to talk to everybody constantly and won't shut up and telling other people how to play their characters, whatever else." How do you handle that?
Basically, I will move the spotlight off people who are hogging it too much. I'll just kind of like, that's great. And what's going on over here, guys? And basically, people will often take the hint from that. Just like, if you're stepping on people, I just kind of like, okay, that's great. And then, oh, did I not get back to you? Sorry. And then, and they'll generally take the hint there very quickly. I basically just step on it right away when you see that happen, when somebody doing that. But also, there's a couple things you can do. Like, for example, if you're not role playing, you're role playing. Like, if two players get into an argument about something, no, your characters had an argument, and the maid is looking at you kind of askance now and excuses herself very quickly. And now exactly who you didn't want to hear about this is going to hear about it. So just, there's things like that you can do. You just got to be quick on your feet and react, and be there to react to the players. And also just keeping good high tension is a great way to focus people. If they're concerned about their survival, they're less likely to engage in unnecessary dramatics, I think.
Let me add a quick follow-up in here, and I apologize for this, but it popped in. This happens very rarely in my games because it gets squashed pretty quickly, because it's something that I'm pretty adamant about. How do you handle the person you're trying to have, we'll call a tension moment of some sort? It could be fear, it could be somebody dying, and you actually want that to be kind of a more emotional moment, whatever. And then you get the person that throws out there the dick joke, and just ruins the entirety of the stress of the situation, or of the emotional environment of the situation. How do you handle something like that?
Very often, I will get things started with an NPC who will just react in shock and terror that you would do such a thing, and just like shame.
I wasn't talking in character. That was just a joke. Come on.
No. You made a dick joke at the funeral. Now everyone is reacting to that. I reserve the right. Anything you say, I can translate into an in-game comment.
Okay.
I reserve that right at my
I think
table.
you and I might be more similar than I thought.
So basically, that's how I would deal with a situation like that. And then you've now just derailed the entire situation. Everyone is pissed at you. No one wants to deal with you. You're going to get kicked out of the next 3 shops you try to buy gear in. Do you get the idea? Great. Don't do that again. And I think just you have to just incorporate bad behavior into bad behavior in the real world, in the game world.
Does that work?
My go-to. I have found it works very, very well, because it also just, if the person's trying to just like, derail the game, you're just like, no, we're just gonna move it over there now, and now this is happening. See, this is all part of it. Whatever disruptive thing you do, I will just incorporate it into what's going on. And I
reactive
find that
GMing over here. That's fun.
And I find that very useful. And also, this is another great, and this is one of the reasons I love like the old school system of having henchmen and hirelings around, because you can just have them use them to like subtly correct things. Like, sir, that was a bit out of pocket, wasn't it? Have a couple of them leave. Wait, no, we need that guy. Yes, and now you don't have him. So I guess you're going to be spending some time replacing him, aren't you? So basically, you have to be quick on your feet, and if you keep the tension high, and then when you let it off, then you let kind of everybody relax a bit once, and then everybody can do that, and they blow off steam that way. You just got to play with the valve and maintain the pressure at the right levels, and then those things will just kind of naturally find their own equilibrium, I think. Because there can be times for that, especially if like a lot of intense things are going on. Okay, everybody just constantly wants to chill out for a moment and decompress from that like crazy thing that just happened. So you just got to control that with what's going on. Also, this is completely off topic, but I noticed your logo larger than I normally see it, and I see it's a claw. I thought for the longest time it was a pile of socks. That's an odd choice. That's an odd choice. Probably some inside joke. Yes.
You mean the orange dragon claw?
Yes, because I'm used to seeing it really small, and I thought, it looks like a bunch of socks. So it's probably some inside
Great. Now
joke.
it's going to forever be known as the sock logo, and it's going to be your fault. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I needed that. All right. So it looks like you wanted to jump in on that.
Well, I haven't.
Or was I mistaken?
I think that basically, like, if a GM has a distracted table, I would say that that happens when players aren't interested in the game, in my opinion. So if you can keep a player's interest in the game, then they won't be distracted. They're going to be focused on the game. And if they're focused on the game, they're probably interacting with your game. I think that that's a side effect of a GM. I think we talked about this a little before, but the GM wanting to tell their story and not giving the players the advertised experience that's on the back of the box, where they get to do whatever they want and go on an adventure that they, of their choosing. The same token, I think it's a player's responsibility to be interested in the game. So make sure, I know we're talking a lot about from the GMI, the Game Master's Insight, but a lot of this stuff is player responsibility, and being a good player means being interested and engaging with the world. I think that players are more interested when their choices directly impact things that are happening around them and directly have big effects. And so if a player is starting to get less interested, make the effect bigger that their actions have on the world around them. If everything's like super frantic and everyone's going hard, I love that. I don't think there's too energetic if everyone's like interested in the game and actively putting that energy towards the game. If the interest is high and the energy is high, then you're going to have a really dynamic game. I don't think interest is high is ever going to be bad. So like if the energy is low, but the interest is high, then you're going to have this kind of slow burn, like kind of relaxing at a tavern kind of thing going on, and everyone's kind of happy with it, I'm not going to stop them because it's not. I might throw something at them, like maybe we've gotten to the point where Act 1's going to turn into Act 2, and I got to throw the your house is on fire. Keep burning houses down in this thing. But the dragon swoops in and grabs the tavern and takes off with it or something. And then we start the game. And then so I think if the characters have real goals and the players are achieving steps towards that goal, or they keep their goal in mind and they're able to pursue it, then it helps keep your players proactive. If proactive players are more interested with a reactive GM and not a GM that's trying to shoehorn in their prep that they did or whatever nonsense they got ready to go. So that's what I think.
I used to be the story gamer who wanted to tell my story. I learned the very, very hard way that I was wrong. That my players fought me at every turn because I was trying to tell my story. I wasn't focused on their needs and what they wanted to do and the world they wanted to explore. So I've had many a game fall apart because I was stuck. I was in my own way. I was in the player's way, and I was in my own way. So a lot of this goes right back to what you've said before, the session 0. Start by figuring out what your players want. What are they there for? Why are your players here? And your players' goals can be separate from your character's goals. So, your players have a certain goal. They want to reach, I don't know, something arbitrary. They want to reach level 20. They want to go pull the sword from the stone. They want to, rescue a princess. That's the player want. Now, when it comes to the character goals, like your character goals can be separate from those or completely contrary. You can have a character who's, the player wants to pull the sword from the stone, but the character wants to be a farmer. You can have those, diametrically opposed things, and it can make for a very interesting story.
It's almost better.
Player driven.
Better that way. Yeah.
And that's player driven more so than game master driven. But in terms of energy, like I think there's two forms of energy that you're playing with. You're playing with game master's energy, and you're playing with player's energy. And the energy of the players is motivation, it's momentum, it's clarity of purpose and clarity of what they're trying to accomplish, their goals. And as long as they have that clarity of purpose, clarity of what's ahead of them and where they're trying to get to, they will drive the game forward for you. You can just take a back seat. They will drive it forward for you. They will actively go look for things. They will actively go interact with things or NPCs, what have you. And they will be the energy of the table. However, you as the game master also need to come to the table with energy. When you come to the table fatigued or just not into it, your players are going to see that. Your players are going to be like, oh, our game master's not really into it tonight. It might be what if we just scrub the game and roll dice at a board game or something. So be alert, be energetic, and come to the table like great things are going to happen. Because if your players are really into it, great things will happen. And your players are going to drive that story for you. But if you're coming to the table fatigued and just tired, you need to take a break. You're at the edge of burnout. I've been there. I'm telling you now that as a person who took a 2 or 3 year break from gaming, I went over that edge of burnout, and it sucked. I wanted to burn every one of my books. I was at that point. I was at the point of just throwing it all in the bin, walking away permanently, and it sucked. I hated it.
I remember having a session or two where I was kind of not in the headspace because things were going on. I was like, okay, so what we're going to do tonight is we're kind of at an in-between point. We're going to do downtime maintenance and stuff, and I'm just going to adjudicate.
Mhm.
And everybody was like, "Oh, cool. We can get X, X, and X done." But yeah, don't force it if it's not there, because then you're just going to really damage like the campaign. And also, I mean, as a game master, you got to look at it. You're not telling the story; you're setting the terrain and the scenario, and they're telling the story by the way they interact with it. It's just that's the headset you got to put yourself into.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That kind of goes back to what I was saying in an earlier segment, how I view that there's like a secret fourth uh, goal for a player is when you just are going to a game because it's time to hang out with your friends. If that's the case, I think as a GM, if everyone's kind of got that vibe, I think you let them just do their dick and fart jokes and just accept it, because otherwise you're not going to be satisfied. And it doesn't matter what you do, everyone's goal has moved on to something else. As a GM, you need to be reactive and understand that you are playing a game that is more of just a starter for a barroom conversation. You're not really playing a game, you're just having fun talking about goblins and shit, and you just be okay with it and have a good time. Don't hurt yourself because your players have decided they have a different goal, or because you've decided you have a different goal because you don't want to play right now. I just want to hang out right now. So let's just have a chill, just like Doc said. Let's do the downtime and we'll shoot the shit, and it's great. I
Did the
think it's
football
great.
game start? Because holy crap, did I lose a lot of viewers in like the last almost half hour? Like, wow, either that or we made them all angry. I don't know.
Good.
No. One of the things I'm not trying to change the topic here, but since we do have a little bit of extra time right now, I love Free League. Actually, no, let me ask this question first, because this actually answers this question. Yeah, go Indiana. Oregon does not belong in the Big Ten. Sorry, wrong topic. Let's get back to so starting with you, Doc. What is one concrete habit, or I don't want to just limit it to that. What is one concrete habit, or what is one style, or one effect, one thing, whatever term you want to use, that you would recommend to a new game master who wants a little more control over the energy of the session, or, and I'm putting this or in here intentionally, wants to ensure that everybody, the role player and the board gamer, the alpha personality and the passive personality, is integrated into the game and has fun.
I think
I know it's very open-ended, but what I'm
yeah.
looking for is like that one piece of solid advice that you can give and say, bam, this is what will work at your table.
I found, and the guy who first taught me to DM when I was probably like 13 did this with me, and he make a checklist for how you run your turns and things you need to cover, and just lean on that until you get the flow of things, and then you can just kind of throw that away and then let things go where they will after that. But initially be structured, firmly understand the rules and what exceptions and changes you're going to make to the rules beforehand, so that getting hung up on mechanical difficulties mid-game is a session killer. That just like kills the energy. So just know the system and have a set method of how you're dealing with things. Okay, this is how I'm going to run the turns. These are like limitations I'm going to put on time. Stick to that until you're comfortable and you know how things work, and then you can just kind of throw that to the side and make the exceptions you need to as you go along. But initially start out very structured until you have a firm grasp of what you're doing.
Great advice.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm like I said before, I'm a teacher, and you'll get I teach math, so you get these like kids that are almost like too smart, and they'll do like 3 steps, but then it's like they kind of combine to it and mess it up. And another person will do like, I don't really know how to do I don't know how to do this thing because it looks so hard when I look at the whole thing. It's like, okay, either way, let's slow it down, do things in a tiny steps. If you can organize, just like Doc was saying, you organize your turn into little steps, The guy that wants to blurt it all out is going to be more structured. He's going to have a better turn typically. And the person who doesn't know how to actually engage with it is going to know, okay, I'm hitting my checklist, just like Doc said. So the checklist we use, where are you? What are you doing? What do you say? 1, 2, 3. If you can do that, then you've taken a good turn. If you want to do more than that, wait till your next turn. And it reins that spotlight hog in, and it gives the wallflower a very clear understanding of what they need to do next. Where am I? Oh, where am I in my head? You know, they know exactly.
I'm going to challenge you on this, Mr. Math Teacher, and I'm going to get political with you to do it.
All right.
So, student comes in. I don't know what grades you teach. You could be kindergarten or high school for all I know. I don't know. But kid comes in, does his long division, but doesn't do it in the format that the book says. I'm going to go so far as to say he does it the Japanese style with all the little cross-hatching, whatever other nonsense that it is that they do. But he gets the right answer every time.
Great. You got it.
Okay. You're allowed to be a math teacher. I am so sick and tired.
The problem is the people that think they know how to do it, and then they do it like 2 times too many. Like they'll do a step
right.
3 times.
No, just have the my thing with like what they did to us in school is have the kid. Okay, if you think you're so smart and you're going to do it differently than what the book says, do this problem right now in front of me. But here's what I've run into. I'm not trying to be political. There's a reason why I'm actually using this analogy with you on that. And by the way, you didn't show yourself to be a hypocrite, so good job. It is the concept that. Look, I don't care how you get to the right answer.
Unless they're web. I'm sure.
I just have to know that you know how to get to the right answer. And there's more than one way to do it. And I've seen so many schools recently and heard of parents going, I taught my kid to divide. My kid failed the paper because he didn't do like a 136 divided by 6 by 100 and then a 30 and then a 6. You know, he did it the old way where you put the little extra zero down, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how can a teacher be mad about that? Well, the reason why I brought that up in terms of role playing, because, you know, you talk about people role play, you know, their own ways. They're at the table, you know, they're staying in character. Well, that is a way of being in character. I do things differently than somebody else. And you as the game master, you still have to understand what's going on for your world, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to know that the player is playing the character. I don't want to say correctly. Within the bounds of the game, the setting, whatever social contract you guys came up with, but you got to give them the freedom to do that as well under your style of play. And it seems like even in the real world, you do that. So, you know what, I just want to see if there's a little hypocrisy in there, and there wasn't. So good on you.
Well, I don't know if you just basically said what I'm about to say, but basically the regiment, it becomes real useful when there's an error happening. So like, oh, I'm bloating my turn out to take like 5 minutes when I should be taking 30 seconds. Like, okay, well, this is what you should be doing. So let's go back to the basics. And then once they are doing a good job, then I don't have to, I'm not telling them how to do it anyways. It's just something that happens after the session, but it just gives them a plan of action and they can follow it really easily.
Okay.
Also, this is probably harder to do in online situations, but this is how we did it when we were only playing at tabletops. If you can if you kind of like apprentice new game masters, mm-hmm. like what we did, we'd have like, okay, you're going to help me track stuff. You're going to keep track of like the hit points and everything over here while you're learning to do this. That's extremely helpful for a new game master to have somebody just like teach them the ropes while they're running a game. It's probably a lot harder to do in an online situation, but there's probably ways you can work it out to make it work. But that's the best way to learn how to do is to like kind of shadow somebody while they're doing it.
Yeah.
To like help out with the mechanical parts.
Learning system mastery while learning how to GM is kind of tricky. I would do a rules light to learn how to GM and then play.
Yeah, and then move into something heavier. Yeah.
Man, right, Jade, I go about it the wrong way.
Did you want to jump in on this, Jade?
I learned on Rollmaster.
Sorry. You know, I started with 3.5. That was the first actual game engine I started with, and man, did I go wrong so quickly. You know, Doc is right. You know, learn the system, learn the rules, learn why the system has those rules in place, why they're written certain ways, whatnot. Because, you know, when you start changing things, just to change things because you want it flavored slightly different, but you don't understand you don't have the fundamental understanding of why it was written or why it was done that way, things will go off the rails so quick. And I tried game mastering my second game ever played, and it went so horribly wrong because I did not take the time to actually read the Game Master book. I didn't have the Game Master book. All I had was the PHB, the Player's Handbook 3.5. And I didn't have a full understanding or grasp of the fundamentals of the game system at that time. I was like maybe 11 or 12, and I tried running a game, and it went so horrible. It crashed and burned after session 2. And then I'm like, okay, I need to watch other game masters. I need to learn what it is they're doing, and most importantly, I need to read the book. I need to understand why things are the way they are. I need to have that core concept. So as a young game master, if you're a new game master, find other tables or even the tables that you play at and see and watch what the game master does. Watch how they interact with the players, watch how they interact with the rules. And if they've changed a rule, ask why they've changed the rule. Not necessarily it's like, I don't understand why you changed the rule. It's like, no, I want to understand why you changed that rule. Why does it, why did you do it for this game? Can you tell me like how the rule works normally and what your addition or what your change does to that rule for your table? Ask your game masters questions.
Oh God, don't get in that fight.
And
Okay,
thoroughly
Never ask your game
no,
master questions.
No, ask your game master questions about be inquisitive. Be inquisitive about things. Don't do it just to be arbitrary and an asshole. Don't do that. What I'm saying by ask your game master questions is ask for clarification and understanding. If you want to be a game master, learn from those who have gone before you.
Including their bad habits that you don't necessarily, that one doesn't work for me so much.
Yeah. The other thing is with changing rules, thoroughly understand the rules before you play with anything like that. Because you pull on the wrong thread, you can break a lot of stuff in a game. For example, in 5e, you could just ignore alignment and not even do it. You try doing that with first edition, half the game isn't going to work. Half the mechanics in the game are just going to fall apart because that's not there. So understand what the rules, they're probably there for a reason. It may well be a stupid reason, but it's there for a reason.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of alignment, so makes sense to me.
All right. Well,
are we going to debate alignment now, Max? Should we debate alignment?
That we can absolutely have that in the future. The thing is, I'm anti-alignment, but in games that have them, I do use it because I know that if you don't, there are aspects of the game that break because of it. So I will argue till I'm dead that if I have to use an alignment system, I'm going to use the Palladium alignment system. It is by far the absolute best one in existence. But one thing I want to add on here, and I guess none of my questions directly got to this the way I'd hoped, is one of the things that I love about the free league games is this. For most of them, not necessarily all of them, but for most of them, I can say for Mutineer Zero, it has this for sure. Forbidden Lands has this for sure. Some of the other ones, but is this idea of an out of character mechanic. My favorite one that I think that was just absolutely amazing because it really built into my style of game mastering is Mutant Gen Lab Alpha. And while the book says you should do all the out of character stuff at the beginning, I'm like, no, you do it at the end because that helps you prepare for the next session. And here's what it is. In Forbidden Lands and in Mutineer Zero, you build your arc. So the person who might not be as strong role-playing gets to sit there and you make that person, maybe make him the point or the primary for how do we want to spend our points and our money to strengthen up our castle here, to strengthen up our arc, to go get the herbalist, whatever, how do we want to do this? We're going to have to go get supplies, but we're going to put you in charge of this more out of character concept. What was really great about Mutant Gen Lab Alpha is you were playing terrorist cells. And even though the players themselves might be new to the game or the characters are low level, they are the center of the resistance, right? And I forget the number. We're just going to say 10 because it's a nice, easy number. there are 10 different things that the players do versus the game master. And they go away and the game master goes away. I allocate my points, we'll call it resources. They allocate their resources, and then we compare results and roll dice to see what happens. All of them except for one. That one becomes the next adventure. And I love ending my adventures on like some sort of cliffhanger, some sort of decision point, because I don't do 2-hour sessions and I don't do, one shots much, even though it's kind of what I'm stuck doing now. But my campaigns go on for generally years. So we end at some sort of decision point, and I got you next week. You already made the decision. So I know you're doing this. Now, what you do once that decision starts is up to you, but you've made this decision, helps me prepare for that. And I like to prep, not high prep, not weeks of prep, but I do like to prep. That's actually enjoyable for me. So something like what Free League does with their games, by having something, you know what? Doc just isn't a strong role player, but he wants to be at the table and he wants to be useful. You know what he is good at, though? He's good at logistics. Let him build the castle for us. So while he might not be strong in the whole character relation aspect of it during the game, he's still rolling his dice. He's still there. But when we put him on this, no, guys, what we really need to do, the next thing we need is a palisade. What are you talking about? We need an alchemist or a fireplace. Screw that. We need a palisade. Things are coming after. You know what? Let's go with that then. You see what I'm saying? And I like that it grabs. Again, this might not be good for the 4D side where you guys are really heavily in the role play, though theoretically you could just role play that. But I think it really gives an opportunity for a non-role player to feel just as involved or have a specialty. Yeah, I'm not as confident. I'm not, and I've literally sat with people who would say things like that. So don't act like nobody says that. I'm just not as confident. I'm just not, not comfortable with this whole, hey, being this character thing. I got to get used to that a little bit more. Great, then you have this other aspect where you're still beneficial at the table and for the game.
Yeah. And also,
real quickly, you guys follow up with that, what your thoughts are, and then we're going to move on. But go ahead, Doc. You were starting. Go ahead.
And also, just as there are quiet people in real life, there are doubtless quiet characters, and you can integrate that into it. You don't necessarily have to force the person to be boisterous and assert themselves. Maybe the character doesn't talk a lot. They can still be a very viable and interesting character. So you let people find their equilibrium and work with it.
The only problem I would have with that's kind of what I'm saying, but the only problem I have with that is that how often is this guy doing anything? So he's just like sitting there, that game's going on around him, and then he's got his calculator out or something. Like, I don't know, is that fun? Is he having a good time?
Well, you want them engaged, but they're not necessarily going to all engage in the same way. Not everybody's character is going to be like talking to everybody and like making speeches. I mean, some people just don't.
I like your solution, Doc. I'm more talking about is the ability to plan a castle a fun experience for someone at a 5-hour table. Like,
have you met Saxius?
You know what? There's probably a guy that wants to do that.
He'll be into doing he'll be like just the accountant. Let me do the taxes.
I know a few players who would love nothing more than to have all the downtime in the world to plan castles, to plan cities, and I do know those kind of players.
Like they're playing like a domain engine game.
Yep.
Sorta.
Yep. And you give them domain engine rules and they'll sit there and be like, okay, how many months of downtime do we have? And then they'll sit there and plan out like what happens during that time. There are some people who do find that engaging and fun. It may not be the way I find or think something I find fun, but if they find it fun and that's what they want at the table, cool. They can still be quiet, still do their thing and enjoy the table and enjoy, some people are just there to watch as well. They want the experience of watching other people engage in a storyline or engage with a mystery or something. And they want to kind of take a background seat and, maybe play a supporting role. Someone who, is able to like, oh, hey, detective, I realize you're trying to get in there because, you're looking for clues. The door's stuck. Let me break that down for you. And sometimes that's the kind of role they want to play.
That kind of goes back to what I was saying. Like every player has their own goal, like what they're wanting to do in a TTRPG. So maybe they really want to do the efficient calculus of figuring out, what the next move should be tactically or strategically. And I guess that's potentially a way that you could have like an immersive type and a tactical type come together. And then that like silent guy that just wants to be part of the group and enjoys him, I would call that more of like they have that social gathering sort of goal. They just kind of want to be there to hang out and then check out what's going on, interact with their friends and stuff. So yeah, I guess that seems like a way to get multiple different goals together.
Well, look, I'm not a beer and pretzel player, and I couldn't last long at a table like that. It just wouldn't work for me. But I recognize that those players exist, and that that's what they want to do. I'm not going to belittle them much.
You don't get to pick your players in this hypothetical, Max. That was the caveat.
But no, I get it. Just. But I guess what I want to say is, yeah, I mean, you're talking about vetting players, and I think everybody's kind of talking about how get to know them and understand them, and that's why maybe a player isn't for you at the table, and maybe you aren't the right game master for this group. Like I've seen a lot. Actually, one of the things you guys said, and I don't have time to dive into it here, but I'll just make this quick anecdote is like. The game master needs to ask the players what type of campaign they want or what type of set. No. And the reason being, now here's the thing. I will ask some questions, absolutely. But you don't want me running an investigative campaign. I suck at it. I openly will tell you, I suck at it. I can do it like short term, but you will not catch me running a game like Call of Cthulhu because over time, I am not good at that. Other things I can do, more political intrigue, more, anybody can do combat, I think, more militaristic style, more. There are so many other ways that I can go. But if you want a detective campaign, this is not the game master for you. Okay. It's just, so at some point now, with that said, let's say we come up with this idea. We want to play a science fiction game. Great. Because that's what I was thinking about running. Do you guys want to be merchants? Do you want to be diplomats, or do you want, let's say it's like a Star Trek thing. Do you want to be, Orion traders? Do you want to be, first contact diplomats, or do you want to be in that galaxy class shooting up pew pew Cardassians or whatever? They let me know what it is, and then I'll shape it around that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Makes perfect sense, actually.
Okay. Well, we got the special part of the show coming up here. And well, I've got a kind of an additional announcement there. Let me get through this first. So, hey, folks, become a Legion of the Channel member by hitting that join button. You can also support after the stream with a super thanks. Really helps us know that you truly like the content and want more of it. Upcoming is segment 4. So in segment 4, we bring you, that's right, you in to talk to our panelists about tonight's topic. Oh, I got to grab the link. Let me do that right now. No, I don't want to leave the studio. There we go. Bye, I'm out. I'm not dealing with this crap. No, I'll post a link to where you can join in just a second here. I'll try to get everyone in, but remember, we're going to prioritize members and super chatters. One other thing, this is why I haven't put the link out there yet. Guys, I'm going to be, I don't want to say rude about this, but I'm going to be blunt about this. If you're coming in to say, hey, love the show, I'm going to exit you out. I appreciate that. I really, really do. But this is for our panelists. We can talk about how much you love the show in the members only section, but this is for the panelists. This is your time to come in and ask them questions about tonight's topic. It has to be about tonight's topic, not some random nonsense. Ask them, ask them. You can counter them. You can ask them questions. You can get clarification, whatever it is. But talk to them because that's who you're here for. You can pick one in particular. You can pick all three of them. I don't care. But it is about them. So please, 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 if you say, hey, Max, I love the show, and that's all I had to say, I'm going to kick you out. I will appreciate you, but I've got to have people in that want to talk to them. That is what this is about. So with that said, let me put that there. And I doubt I have anybody watching. A lot of people don't know.
Come in here and tell me I'm wrong, please.
A lot of people don't know that that I actually have a Game Master Insight channel on Rumble. So I am streaming on Rumble. It's not the same as the RPG Digest one. So we are streaming over there as well. But so there we go. Now with that, so we'll wait for folks to come in. Let's got a couple of super chats to read, and when people, I'll get people pretty much in order. But segment 4 is this. Now that we're in it, so it's time for where you can have your say, and also chat on our Discord. I'd love to hear that. What's that?
I'll pop another button.
Uh-oh.
segment 4. I'm just
Before we bring anyone to talk on the channel, I'm going to hit the super chats, but I need to remind you guys of a few things. If you do not want to get booted, do not break YouTube's terms of service. Come in screaming nonsense or whatever, and then I'll have one of my mods ban you. Stay on topic unless somebody specifically super chats more time for you. Have 5 minutes. That is it for the back and forth. The members only is a little different, but for this portion, you get 5 minutes. That is it. And no matter what, the show has a hard stop in about 23 minutes here. So let me read these super chats, and then we've already got somebody, at least one person waiting. And so we have Bear, the Gen X GM says Sock Dragon. It took me a second to figure what CR was. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, because I'm not a 3.0 guy. I'm like, is that like a code I'm supposed to know? But no, okay, I get it. Challenge rating 23. That's a pretty tough. You know what? I'll go with that though. If the Sock Dragon is challenge rating 23, I will allow the logo to be that that challenge rating. And then thank you for the 5
weapons.
What's that?
Immunity to blunt weapons.
Well, dang it. That's half my chat. Half my chat are just blunt weapons. Bear the Gen XCM also with another $5 says, well, 5 Canadian, so it's probably like 3. I don't know. 3D, 4D. Notice he does not talk about 1D or 2D. He is such an elitist out there. 3D, 4D, 5D. Play the game. It's not a competition. I don't know. Some of the tables I've been at, we've been more competitive with each other than we were with whatever world we were. But no, I agree with him on that. So thank you for those super chats, Bear.
Me too. I also feel that way.
And strangely enough, oops, hold on. I got to get my segment 4 banner up. Oh, there we go. And talking about where did he go? Why is Bear not here? Hold on. Bear's here, but I'm not seeing him. Oh, because I have to change this too. Now we see him. There we go. Pro streamer here. Hey, Bear. You got 5 minutes, sir. What is it? I know you're going to come back for the member side, but right now you got 5 minutes.
I will, of course, be back for the member section, but I just wanted to say in the 5 minutes that I have, I don't want to say anything other than, gentlemen, I think we can all agree on one thing. Engagement is key. How we get that engagement will depend on the table, and all the tips and tricks in the world will not carry to every single table in existence. Some tables are going to be different than others, and we need to, as I see a large number of ambassadors of our hobby on screen right now. We are the people that are out there putting ourselves out. Jade, I know you've been taking a break, but you were once upon a time very much out there. It's up to us to teach people to stop being, or at least I feel free to disagree with me, to teach people to stop being elitists and exclusionists and learn to be accepting, open, and welcoming of people to the hobby so that we can show them fun ways to play the game and maybe open their minds a little bit. Because for me, when you chastise someone or tell them they're wrong, they don't tend to listen very well. At least that's my experience. Okay, there's my question. Now I've got 5 minutes to listen to your responses.
I completely agree, unless we're talking about GURPS.
That everyone's wrong.
Man.
I do have to obey the terms and conditions, so I can't tell you what I really think about GURPS other than, yes, GURPS is a role-playing game that exists.
Yep.
No, but absolutely, I absolutely agree with that. There's, it's because I remember back when we're all playing D&D, because that's basically what was there. There was the OD&D guys, the white box guys, the basic guys, and the 1E guys made fun of each other all the time, but it was never malicious. It was never malicious. I think a lot of that is just down to the nature of internet culture that it's gotten so ugly, but we absolutely have to fight against that, because that's a poison in our system right now that really needs to be excised.
The elitism is the poison. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that I agree. I think people should be able to engage with the hobby however they want. And I think people should be able to pick whoever they want to play with. So I got no problem.
I mean, yes, elitism is typically frowned upon from many different angles. When I'm playing other games and I'm seeing, elitists basically telling other people, stop playing the game, you suck at this, whatever. And those players need to leave that table. They need to go find a table of their peers to play with. Let them exist at that table with their peers.
Yep.
I will advocate for running open games or like open one shots at your local game store. I try to run a series of one shots at my local game store for Free RPG Day, and that's coming up in June. And my table is, I will run the exact same scenario 4 or 5 times that day. It's 2-hour sessions, and I am there all day for the entirety of it. And I want to get new faces. I want to get faces in that maybe you've never played an RPG game, and I'm willing to teach them the ropes. And that's why I play ICRPG and Index RPG. It's very rules light. I can teach it in under 5 minutes. And go out there and get other people interested in the hobby by being present, being put yourself in that space, and if you're comfortable doing so, and bring people into the hobby. Show them that it can be a fun time.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important when people get a taste of the hobby that it meets their expectations and potentially exceeds their expectations. So that's why I advocate for letting the players do what they want, because that's what the main draw of role-playing games is this railless. I can go into the forest. The forest isn't some invisible wall like in a video game. And so when you show them that, it's actually we're talking about this story I made up, then they're less likely to want to go back, because it's not what they thought it was going to be. Because everyone always says, oh, it's like you get to do whatever you want. It's so great. But then like the reality is different. So that's why I advocate for a certain style. And I think certain styles are better at taking those rails off, at doing what I call immersive role playing. I'm sure a lot of other people call it that. I know a lot of other people call it. And so, I think it's the best way to bring new players in, is to make sure that they know that it is what they thought it was going to be. And you're going to get the opportunity to be that hero that gets to do what they want. So,
real quickly, because we got to boot Bear in just a second. Bear, any final comments for these folks, or otherwise I think
no, that's fine. I think this has been a very interesting conversation overall, and a couple more chair shots to the head and maybe a surprise run-in would have helped it, but overall, pretty on point, guys.
I'll get some more contentious ones in the future. Hey, Mr. Max Boivin has got an actual debate with somebody on the 19th, so that should be fun.
Yeah,
so, but Bear, I'm sure we'll talk to you in a little bit here when we get to the members only side, but I've got somebody else to bring in, so thank you very much. And we got talking about Mr. Max Boivin.
Yeah, there you go.
Look at your background.
Yeah. Well, it's not moving at least.
Yes.
Yeah, people aren't going to give me complaints about feeling sick or whatever else. But go ahead. You only got 5 minutes. So what is it you got?
Yes, my question to the panel, because we're talking about engagement, right? And if we were in any other hobby, in any other kind of activity, right, and we invite people over to participate, and they just sit there and be the wallflower, we wouldn't tolerate that. If we were to play soccer together and get one guy show up every week, he's always there, but he's always kicking grass, not looking where the ball is. He says he's having fun, he's having good time and stuff like that, but at some point, would we tolerate that? We would have a music band, right? And the guy doesn't learn his song, doesn't play his part on his instrument, right? Whatever. Yeah. At some point, we'd say, man, maybe you're not right for this hobby. Maybe you should try to do something else. But I'm having fun. I like hanging out with you. Yeah, but we're trying to do something here, right? So why do we tolerate that kind of behavior when we play role-playing game? Are we too soft with those people? And a lot of people are low agency, and they may say they're having fun, but sometimes you have to wonder, are you really having fun? Is there not something else you could do that you'd be more engaged and participate more actively that would be better for you? Maybe it's also not good even for them to just let them tag along like that and, in a sense, waste their life.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think? Are we too soft?
Can I push back on Mr. Max here?
What? Yes.
I just want to, because Bear kind of did this too, where it's you guys are derailing the premise of the conversation. I'm not allowed to kick people out of the table. I would have kicked them out before they even got there. But it's I don't think it's elitist to kick that guy off the soccer field. I think that that's just me not wanting to waste my time. That's what I would say. So I agree with you.
I would say that's true, but it's also a different kind of beast in a way than playing in a band or on a soccer field, because it's a social thing that's very kind of awkward and weird to a lot of people at first. So you have to give some room and leeway for people to find their footing in it. Because I know when I very first started playing, I was very awkward with the whole situation, and I was encouraged, and I eventually found my footing with it. But I think it's a situation where you have to give people some room to grow into it as well, especially if it's a new player.
Well, the problem
generally that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah,
Phil, you talked now.
Yeah, I know, honestly.
Okay. Generally, the wallflower character or player, I find that they are oftentimes newer to the game or newer to the hobby, so there's not they don't have a good foundation underneath them to interact or how to interact. They haven't really necessarily seen or been shown how to interact with the game. It's a game where you can do anything. You can go, experience anything. You can interact with anything. But to a person who's never done that before, never, done role playing before, they're not necessarily going to know how. And in a lot of ways, I think it's kind of on us to show them how, or it's on other players to also show them how. Now, you will have those who are a little voyeuristic. They want to just watch. They want to be involved, but and watch and not necessarily partake. And that's a conversation you have with them outside the table. You don't want to disrupt your table or the flow of the game to have that conversation. You want to have that conversation away from the table. And if they stop showing up, they stop showing up. If they want to take a more active role, they can take a more active role and become involved. But you kind of have to drive it, like, why are you here? What drives you to be here? And once you have that information, you can start drawing them in and getting them to interact with the table.
I would say that there's a very distinct difference that needs to be addressed here, and that is the difference between a new player and the player that I've been playing this game for 40 years. I know that I'm doing it right. So if that's the guy in the soccer field, he needs to go find another table. If I got a new player who's like, I don't really know what to do, I would like some guidance, I'm more than happy to help that player all day.
But the player that's with like guidance, like that's already like a sign of engagement, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And for the people that are a bit voyeuristic, if you don't know what role playings are about and you want to see how it goes, now we have live play that you can watch, right? And can give you, so you're not occupying a seat of the table and like kind of forcing people to try to engage you and become a bit awkward. And as to what Doc said, like that's my Max, that's my reply to the panel, my final, if I can, to what Doc said. Like you said, like all these hobbies, a lot of like awkward people, and that are like the social thing, right? And is that why we tolerate it? Because it's kind of a nerd hobby, and like we know a lot of nerds are like socially inept, and so we're overly lenient, in my opinion, right? Like I just started a new martial art, and you see people that never done it, they show to the class, and they still try to keep up. They still do their best, right? So I think we should be able to expect the same. But so
all right, well, Mr. Max,
thank you.
Yep, I have to nuke you. There's nobody behind you, but you know what? I'm still not gonna play favorites here, and maybe be back here in the members only side in just a little bit. But I'll talk to you in a little bit, and thanks for popping on in here.
You're welcome.
Okay, folks, the link is out there. We have room. We have time for probably one more. I mean, we can maybe squeeze in two if we keep it quick. But I can put the link out. I've kind of spammed the link, but I'll do it again. Other than that, we can always end the show now. That's not a big deal to me. And continue the conversation in the member side. If there's anything else, get a little spicier there. I know there's a couple other people who want to pop. Oh, looks like we got somebody. Look at that. Oh yeah. All right, Nerdy Ogre, sir. What do you got going on?
What Phil just said about the player that's been playing for 40 years, brought to mind something I've heard. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes habit. So that player that's
we said permanent. Practice makes permanent. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I didn't hear that part of it. But so that player that's been playing, has been, playing in the, for lack of a better word, the wrong way for 40 years. He's going to think that he's doing it right. He's doing it the best optimal way, because that's the, whenever he came in, nobody showed him, hey, here's a better way. Here's a, be more active, be more this, do this, so that they've been doing it, for 40 years and have made it permanent, as you said.
This kind of goes back to one of those super chats before. It's like, how much of this is on the GM, how much of this is on the player? And I mean, the player's got to meet them halfway. If the player is like stuck in their ways, they want you to cater them, and they're not showing any ability to kind of help out with their own meshing with the table, then I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on this. I know it's supposed to be your time. I'm sorry, I can't help. That is a big issue for me. Players need to mesh to the table. I don't care if you're 4D, if you're BroSR, if you're Grog, if you're somewhere in the middle. I don't care if you're a thespian actor or somebody who just wants to move tunes and swing battle axes. If that is not what the table is, it is your responsibility as the player to adjust or leave.
Yeah. And
that is a big deal for me.
I think it's on game masters to make very clear the kind of game they're running with new players, especially really experienced players who have habits. It's like, this is what we're doing. Are you good with this? So you get that out of the way first with people who have set habits. I think you avoid a lot of the trouble before it starts that way.
The concept of
go ahead.
Go. No, this is your question. Your time.
Go ahead. Yeah. Well, I was just saying. Well, would you give the player some leeway? Because if they've been playing a certain way for 40 years, to just expect them to automatically go from 40 years to right now. Like how much leeway?
As long as I'm getting an effort from a player, I'll stick with them a lot.
Well, I think that comes out in session 0, right? Like that's part of the conversation at session 0. A person's like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for 40 years. Oh, cool. What kind of campaigns have you been in? Tell me about some of the characters you've played before. Tell me about some of the goals they've had, because that's going to inform me, the game master, as to how they've played, what they've played, and the way they play.
So I had Gunthar, the Tiefling Barbarian Assassin, level 37.
Cool.
Nice. That was my point. I like the question. What's your fondest memory of TTRPGs? Like during a game, what was your favorite part? Just to find that out. Yeah, but just like Doc said, if they're putting an effort in, I mean, I can't hate on them. Go for it. I'm happy to work with people. If they realize they may not be right, then that's usually half the battle. And then I realize I'm not right, so we'll meet together and figure it out.
All right, Nerdy Orger, any final comments here? Otherwise, I've got to bump you here in a second. I think we're going to wrap it up because I don't think I can get another person here in under 5 minutes and have a good conversation. So, Nerdy, thanks for popping on in here, and I hope you have a great night, sir.
Back at you.
Later, man.
All right. We got less than 4 minutes, and that means including my outro here. So any final words of wisdom you got for folks, or are we ready to wrap this up and move to the member side where we can really start?
Yeah, just don't be a dick. And if you really have to be, may I recommend the RPG site? It's like RPG.net, but mirror universe.
Okay.
I would say I'm coming at this as a very hard, you should vet your players person. I recognize that I think it is a net positive. If you take away all the advantages of online play, I would much rather play around a table. And typically the only way you're going to play around the table, especially in rural Texas, is there's 5 guys around town that might want to play with you. And so these practices I'm talking about, it's you got to cater the table to those 5 guys. If you want to have an in-person game, it might be out of your hands, 4D guys. You might be playing a tactical war game. Or you might just be having beers and talking about goblins. As just enjoy it. It's fine. Come online and get the experience, the specialized experience you want. But
So that's
I
weird.
like the
I just
experience.
don't feel that role playing is nearly as good online as it is in person, but that's just personal preference.
That's
so.
exactly what I'm
Yeah,
saying. That's
I agree.
exactly-
Unfortunately, I'm in a situation where I'm the only one out here, so I'm kind of in that situation. But
All right, Jade, anything final here? Because I will cut you off if we get to the point. So
No,
I need to make sure you get your say.
I think I'll leave on this. Be the energy you want at your table. Play with the people you want to play with, and make sure that they want to be there and play the same kind of game that you want to play. Because they should be the driving force in your world. You own the world. You have all the levers and controls at your disposal, but it's their story. They are the ones who are going to want to drive forward. And if the energies are mismatched, maybe that's a conversation.
Yeah.
All right. And for the public show, we're going to leave it at that. So YouTube members, there's more to come. So don't go anywhere. For everyone else, that's it for the public show. If you watched this as a video after live stream, please leave a comment of, I should put this up to remind you guys. There you go. Please leave a comment of who you believe had the most compelling, interesting, or novel position. Did you learn anything new that you may try at your table? Let us know in those comments there. A sincere thank you to everyone who supported the show with super chats, Rumble rants, and memberships, and to all of you who took the time to join us tonight, even the guy that got timed out. Finally, thank you very much to tonight's panelists for their time and for their informative and somewhat spirited discussions. Be sure to subscribe to their channels, links in the description, and I look forward to doing this again next time. And where's my outro song? There it is.